Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where OP's neighbor demands free babysitting. Am I the jerk for not watching my neighbor's kids? My neighbor asked this morning for people to watch her kids, who are 7 and 9, for this week. It is spring break, so they're out of school. She had a sitter lined up, but things fell through at the last second, and she can't take time off work all week at the last second without being fired. A number of our neighbors agreed to watch them for certain periods of time, ranging from a few hours to a couple of full days. So it seems like she's mostly covered, but just has Friday afternoon left to go. My immediate next-door neighbor, a retiree who's watching her kids today, chimed in that, "OP works from home on Fridays. You should ask her to watch them." She tagged me in the comments. Then the mom replied by tagging me again and saying that would be great and she'd really appreciate it. I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't watch them." It quickly turned into the inquisition, "Why not? Am I going into the office on that day? If I'm going to be home, then what's the problem? If my house isn't childproof, I can watch them at her house, so what's the problem?" Firstly, I don't want to. It isn't just that I know nothing about kids, which I don't, but also I'm actively uncomfortable around them. More importantly, I will be in my home office actually working. I can't supervise them. I don't know how much active supervision 7 and 9-year-olds need, but my house is full of expensive things. I also have zero childproofing and couldn't even tell you for sure where all my chemicals and pest control products are kept. I have an enormous dog who's clumsy, excitable, and has never been around kids except from a distance on walks. And I can't just watch them at her house instead because I need to be in my home office working. It isn't the kind of job I can easily do on a laptop screen. I use a 45-inch monitor at home. I explained this all briefly in response to questions. My house is the opposite of childproof. I can't go to her house because I have to be home for work. I didn't mention the part about not liking kids. The neighbors are all piling on and commenting negatively, saying it's just excuses, that if they worked from home or wouldn't be at Disney World or didn't have a softball game, whatever, they'd absolutely watch her kids for her. I'm tempted to comment, "What's stopping you from taking her kids with you to your softball game if it matters that much to you?" But I haven't. I'm not going to watch her kids either way, but I need a sanity check here. Am I really that big of a jerk for not stepping up and watching a neighbor's kids for a few hours? Or have I just moved into a hive of mama bears who all have the same mass delusion? Edit. This is all happening on a neighborhood Facebook group where people do things like post about lost dogs, ask if anyone wants their old couch, or ask for recommendations for plumbers, and they ask each other for small favors. I've asked before if someone would let my dog out to use the bathroom when I was unexpectedly late getting off work. I've agreed to sign for someone's delivery while they were at the office, things like that. It caught me off guard when my no wasn't accepted, and I got the sense from the questions and comments that if I didn't satisfy them with my reasoning, then I'd be iced out going forward if I need someone to sign for my package. As if babysitting random kids for hours is the same level of favor. I think the consensus is that nothing I said was ever going to be good enough, and they'd only ever use anything I said as an opening to keep pressing me. So I was doomed from the start to get acquainted with the clerk at the nearest UPS store. Rest assured that I haven't responded to them since posting here. Not the jerk. Don't let them interrogate you. Just say, "I'm working from home. I'm not available." Every word you say after that will be taken as a negotiation. If you say, "My home is not childproof," they're not thinking you're saying no. They're thinking the way salesmen think when they hear people put up obstacles to the sale. Salesmen are trained to recognize obstacles as meaning something like, "Maybe, but what about this?" Not the jerk. My only explanation of why I couldn't look after them would be, "I'm working," possibly followed by, "I'm working," if the first wasn't sufficient. People need to get their minds around the fact that work from home does not mean you have nothing to do. I found pictures of a guy hugging all over and kissing my wife of 11 years at a music festival last year. She left her Mac open one day, and we've had a bit of a bad spell here lately. Happens from time to time since we both work stressful jobs and have a special needs kid. When things are good, things are great, and we've only been having issues for the past 12 months or so. Really nothing before then, but minor arguments and small fights about nothing. Over the past few days, I've brought to her attention that I'm not really sure how I feel about this, and I'm not sure how comfortable I am moving forward until I feel better about it. I've had a feeling that she was messing around, or trying to, with someone else. So I looked in the Photos app and I saw nothing out of place. Then hidden, and saw that she had pictures, 8 pictures, of a guy that she knows from work, hugging all over her extremely close and tightly, and kissing her on the cheek in each picture. One was a movie as well, where she continues to hold on to him and then realizes that she's taking a video. Huge smile on her face, and you can tell she's intoxicated. I asked her about this over text since she was at work, and then immediately the pics were deleted from photos. I did airdrop them to myself though before, so I could have them in case any legal issues come up and I need to have proof of an affair. After they were deleted, she said, "What? What guy? I was with my friend from work, etc." And she tried to play it off, and then blamed me for looking at her stuff. I know that it's wrong, but I mean, look what I found. We talked the rest of the time while she was at work, and I did get really upset. Said some things that I probably shouldn't have, but it really is just concerning that she had them hidden like that and saved from last year. These festivals were not only last year in August and September, but 2 hours away from where we live and a month apart from each other. She went with a different female friend each time. The first time she said it was a coincidence that they ran into each other, but she did admit to telling him that she was going to that show and that they should meet up again. I was not invited to any of these shows either, by the way. Her and this guy are friends from work, but I guess they have had rapport from that, but I've never met him. I don't know how old he is or anything like that. She said that he does know that she's married. I just wanted to know why she would allow that, or if she tried to stop him and her response was, "I'm sorry, I just wasn't thinking." She admitted that she had been drinking as well, something that she never does here or with me, ever. I don't really find that excuse valid. She has really bad panic attacks when she drinks a lot, and before when she's done that, she's had to call me at night, and I have to talk her down some. We both kind of agreed it might be best for her to not drink a ton, so then that doesn't happen, and that did seem to help the last time she was away for a work trip and several other times when she's been away. This guy also was staying at the same hotel as her for the concert. I never got a call from her that night, so maybe she didn't have a panic attack. She swears up and down nothing else happened, but I'm just not sure how I can believe her at this point or trust her going forward. Nothing like this has ever happened that I know of. So back to this, "I just wasn't thinking" excuse. She wasn't thinking of a husband of 11 years? Her kid? Just not thinking of anything? This has spiraled into a huge argument now going on a few days, and I really just do not know what to do. How can I trust her going forward? If she has done this and never thought anything of it, what else has she done in the past and just doesn't have photo evidence of? On the other hand, it was a kiss on the cheek, but why take so many pictures of this when you're married? They took some in the car on the way there, several at the venue, and the timestamps were all over, like from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Am I really overthinking and overlooking this? Another fun fact is that there were a ton of videos of her and pics of her that she had taken for me that just never got sent to me, going back over a year, in that same hidden folder too. She swears that she hasn't sent. Come on, man. Another fun fact, she's flying across the US in 2 weeks to go to a show with her friend. Great timing, right? I appreciate any advice here, guys. Again, I might be overthinking, and that's fine too. This hopefully will feel better to get some assurance either way. Deleting the pictures in real time when you asked about the guy is all that you need to know. She's living a double life. She's yours when she's home, and she's his when she's out. You are being played. She wasn't thinking when she put these suspicious pictures in a hidden folder? Come on, buddy. You know what's happening here. I stopped reading when you said that she immediately deleted the pictures in a hidden folder when you asked about the guy. There's nothing else we need to know. She's cheating. Well, what do you think? Is OP's wife cheating on him, or is this all in his head? Please let us know. My wife is not the mother she told me she would be, and now I don't know what to do anymore. We've been together for 12 years, married for 8. We always had great dynamics. She told me she wanted 2 to 3 kids, and I was always more cautious due to my troubled childhood. This was a constant topic in the past. We talked about names for our future kids. We had 3 girl and 3 boy names chosen. When our first child was born a bit more than 4 years ago, I somehow opened up. Being a father made my life full. Everything seemed to be going great, and I was instantly ready for another baby. I helped 50-50 even though I was working after 4 weeks leave, changing diapers, waking up at night, going for walks. However, she stopped wanting more. Even in the first 2 years of raising our baby, it was obvious she did not like motherhood. She could not sit down to play. She would rather pursue her hobbies. I would have to go on sick leave to care for her because she was kind of burnt out after a week of being alone with our daughter. I'm working from home all the time. I even play with her during non-video meetings. I thought it could be depression, but my wife was cheerful, has hobbies, goes out with her friends. But if she has to be with the kid for 2 to 3 days due to a cold, then misery comes. Important to note here is that my wife and I are both working in the same field. She's much smarter than me, but she's lazy. She would do the bare minimum. Whereas I love this field. I do research and train myself, and because of this, I earn 3 times as much. She could do much more with her brain, but she doesn't care, which is fine, but she still demands that I go on sick leave with our daughter. I would point out that her salary would not support our lifestyle, and we could cook instead of ordering, but she does not want to. I feel horrible. My only support is my daughter, her smile and laughter. I could not put her through a divorce since I was from a broken family. I'm jealous of the other mothers who love to be with their kids. Update. She wasn't always like this. Even she says sometimes she can't play with our daughter because it's hard. She also works from home, but when I'm on sick leave, she's untouchable. I feel like she's escaping from interacting with her daughter when she has a chance of sinking into work. I never pressured to have another baby. I only said I'm ready when someone asked personally. But I always try to put on my game face and say, we're not sure when others asked. I will look into PPD, but it seems like she can handle our kid in small doses, and she's happy those times. For example, after kindergarten, she can play with her a bit, but she never proposes programs with her. Unfortunately, some women don't know what kind of mothers they're going to be until they have kids. She may have meant what she said about kids when she said it, and then simply found the reality much more different. Or if she had a difficult pregnancy or birth, she may be carrying some resentment of her own. Have you two discussed counseling at all? Because it seems like you're on different pages about a few things. Your daughter just brought the issues to the forefront. I'm surprised no one has brought up that you said that your 4-year-old daughter is your only support. That's not healthy. You are their support. They're not yours. You're not their friend. You're their parent. This mindset is not healthy. You're setting her up for a difficult life. I understand you, but for a woman, it's not, oh, I'll just get pregnant and give birth, and then they're okay and like they were before. Pregnancy and hormone changes affect women for years after pregnancy. And just because she's doing hobbies and meeting friends doesn't mean that she's not struggling internationally. All over the world, right? And yeah, okay, it comes naturally to you, but you weren't the one pregnant, giving birth, and going through postpartum. Almost every single woman is traumatized by their birth, and postpartum is not just for a few months, but years. A lot of mothers experience not feeling okay or like themselves for years until they feel some sense of self again. Talk to her. And don't call your own wife and mother of your kid lazy. Just because someone could do something doesn't mean they have to. Also, unfortunately, some people just don't like toddlers. Ask her if she needs something. Go to her and ask for an honest conversation without judgment. Yes, you love your daughter and spend a lot of time with her, but do you still love and take care of your wife? Go out with her, get someone to watch your kid, surprise her. You guys need to work on your relationship. You sound bitter, and I bet she notices that too. Update. On Friday, I brought our daughter to her grandparents. Then I asked to have a chat with my wife. I told her how I felt, what I see, and I asked how I can help her. I offered that she should take some time off, a couple days alone or with a friend of hers, and she said that's a good idea. On Saturday afternoon, while I went to pick up our kid from the grandparents, she seemingly packed 2 big duffel bags worth of clothes and went away. 2 bags are missing and a lot of her clothes, so it's easy to do the math. I called her without success, but at least she answered my messages about at least saying goodbye to her daughter, to which she replied, "It's not about her." It's been some days now. My daughter asked where mom is a couple of times, and I keep telling her things like, she can't come home now, but she loves you, but it feels like I'm lying to her face. I can't sleep, can't eat, even my in-laws have no info on what's happening with my wife. I will talk to a lawyer tomorrow and start documenting everything as a friend of mine told me. And to answer a couple of questions, I'm not just playing with my daughter. I take her to kindergarten. I take her home too every day. I plan weekend activities, vacations. I take care of her more than my wife does. I plan date nights for my wife and I while grandparents came over, or we brought our kid to their place. So there's that. Keep safe. Whatever you do, don't let her do the in and out, back and forth BS. Don't let her vanish for weeks or months at a time, pop back up for a visit or two, and then disappear again. That can really affect your kids. Either she's gonna be a mom or she's not. Has she communicated any of her feelings about this with you? Is motherhood different than she expected? I've read both your posts, and it still seems like she's checked out. Honestly, stories like this just affirm my decision not to be a mom. I don't have an overwhelming desire to be one, but I do admit that there are some parts that would be nice. I've had so many people tell me I'll change my mind as I get older or with the right partner, or that I'd make a great mom. But I'm honestly more worried about being like this mom and not wanting a kid after having them, or even worse, resenting a kid their whole life. For me, I'd rather regret not having kids than regretting having one and leaving them like this. Wow, I see so much of myself in the wife. Thank goodness I never had kids. I hope OP sues her for child support and gets on with his life as a single dad, because she's out and should stay out. Same, I couldn't be a mother. Thank goodness I live in an age where I don't have to be. I'm glad I always knew I didn't want to have kids. I can't imagine the devastation of getting there and discovering it's not for you. And then what? Now you just have to keep being a parent, whether in spirit or monetary support. Today I messed up by falling in love with my coworker. For some background and context, I, 30 male, and my ex-wife, 28 female, separated last August after she had cheated on me one too many times. I should have left the first time, but it is what it is. A few months later, I think I'm ready to step out of my comfort zone and try my hand at getting back on the horse. Around October, I reached out to a coworker of mine who works with a woman. I'll call her A. She's 28. Asking if A was single, as I had an instant crush on her from the moment I saw her. She relayed that A was indeed single and I should shoot my shot if I was interested. So I did, and A gave me her number. Now, I was originally drawn into this woman by her beauty. We work in different departments, but we have the same job title. I had some casual conversation here and there, but we didn't work together closely, and I knew nothing about her other than she was the sister of someone I graduated with. Back to the beauty part. She is undoubtedly the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. Subjectively, I don't think any woman could hold a candle to her in that department. Something about this woman just made my insides melt into a pool of jelly. I didn't even have that feeling with my ex-wife. It was so intense. I started our conversation owning up to the fact that I had a thing for her for a long time. The friend who gave me the advice to shoot my shot had mentioned that they have a shared music playlist, and she has some good music tastes. So I asked her about her music choices, and we started a blend playlist on Spotify that updates daily, which is the dopest thing I've heard of. Within the first few days, she asked what my intentions were, as she wasn't into hookups, and she wasn't necessarily wanting a relationship. I told her that I understood and respected it, and that if she wanted to continue talking, I wouldn't be opposed. After a few months of talking, we realized we had the same music, movie, and humor taste, so our conversations were absolutely seamless. We could start the day with a good morning and end the day talking about how nail polish is called varnish in the UK. Just complete spiraling out of nowhere. The vibes we sent back and forth were astronomical on a completely different page that I had ever experienced. Now on to the mess up. After months of talking, I fell completely in love with A. I had asked her many times to hang out, but as she is a single mom of two, she doesn't have much leeway in terms of freedom and had stated that she didn't want to bring me around her kids, which as a single dad of two, I completely understand. That all changed when the Irish celebratory day of March attacked. On St. Paddy's Day, she called me around 9 p.m. to ask if I could bring some glue to her daughter with a craft she and her friend were doing. I said sure and went to the store and got some. Swung by to drop it off, fully expecting to leave immediately. However, I was surprised when she asked if I wanted to stay and hang out. It was obvious she had been drinking, but we had fun listening to music and just talking. She told me about her family history and how awful it was. She opened up about her motorcycle accident she had earlier that summer. This woman was certainly opening up to who she was with me, and I enjoyed every moment. She accidentally called me baby, ugly cried, and drooled right in front of me. She grabbed at my hand when I was leaving after telling me to let her know I got home safe, as it was crappy weather that night. She grabbed at my hand when I was leaving after telling me to let her know when I got home safe because the weather was bad that night. My drive home was euphoric. A few days later, she was more distant than she had ever been. I couldn't hold it in any longer, so I texted her a very long message confessing my love for her, which was met with a resounding, "I'm gonna take this all in," and didn't hear back from her until the next morning. She texted me the following morning saying that she was baffled that I felt this way and wasn't going to put a wrench into her routine-based life for anyone anytime soon. I owned up to her that I messed up, knowing that she said she wasn't interested in a relationship, but I also wasn't expecting to fall in love with her either, so I was just as baffled as she was. Now we've gone from seamless conversation to one long text a day to each other, and from the looks of it, that's where it will probably end. I told her that if she wants to be platonic friends, I can, but I really don't think that I'd be able to. I want nothing more than to be able to call A my girlfriend, but I don't see that reality playing out in this timeline. Maybe in the multiverse we are. All I know is I messed up a good friendship with an awesome person because I fell in love with her. Edit. My ex and I co-parent successfully. We haven't legally divorced yet, but our marriage was over long before we called it off. She and I are still very good friends, and she's fully aware of the situation that I put myself in. She thinks I'm an idiot, and I completely agree. 2. I don't blame A in the slightest, nor do I have any ill will towards her. She was married previously, and it did not end very well, and she's been single since. 3. I get it. Why did I text a love letter to her? Man, I wish I could tell you, but I went full send with it and crashed hard. I agree that my infatuation with her blinded me to see how my actions would be coming off as love bombing and a big ol' red flag. I appreciate everyone in the comments. I know I was in the wrong. I fully intend to back off and leave her alone from here on out. The last thing I told her was that I'll leave this decision to remain platonic friends or not to her, and whichever she chooses, I'll support. What on earth am I reading? You didn't mess up in the slightest. You handled this in a very normal way. You waited till the time was right. The time looked right to you and you went for it. That's what you do if you want to be with someone. There ain't nothing you can do if the other person doesn't want the same and she doesn't. Now you know. You can stick around and play the long game or you can move on. Either way, you now know where you stand, even if the situation appears to have changed, which is important. Not a mess up. Messing up is taking the friendship train for years and finding out the same information after 3 years instead of 3 months. You played your cards wrong. You were too friendly rather than being direct and showing, not telling, her that you wanted her right from the start. And so instead of her now being your girlfriend, you're in the friend zone. But to be honest, she's a single mother with 2 kids and doesn't want a relationship. Either that was her bluffing because she wasn't that interested from the start, or it's a red flag. Your best bet is to now tell her that you're not interested in being friends and move on. Do not reach out to her at all. If down the road she reaches out to you, then great. But until then, no more communication. Good luck either way. I fell in love with my coworker 8 years ago. She also wasn't interested in love. We've been inseparable for 8 years now, and I call her my fiancé. Only time will tell, but nothing stops true love. Good luck, my man. Support her and love her platonically. Let her make the first move if and when she gets there. Don't do what I do and have hope for years on end. You're in the friend zone. It's great when the conversation is fun and back and forth, but it never seems to go anywhere. Well, what do you think? Did OP mess up or not? Please let us know. Say it again for all the people in the back. Real life is not a romantic comedy. Karen keeps eating my microwave dinners and I've had enough. About 6 weeks ago, I, 21 female, moved in with my friend John, who's 22 male. John and I have been very good friends for almost 2 years now after I befriended him at work. 6 months ago, he met this girl, Kat, who's 19. He told me about her the day after he matched with her on a dating app and took me to her workplace to meet her. She seemed very lovely and I was so happy for him. Since then, John is always inviting her to every friend outing, so I got to know her. We have lots in common, and for John's sake, I wanted to be her friend. However, I think that, in the nicest way possible, she's a bit rude. She does art, and half the time John compliments her work, she says, "You hate it, don't you?" Or times we hang out with other friends, we've had to go home early as she was bored, and John was our ride home. She hasn't done anything to me personally, but I just don't like her much. I'm happy John has found someone who he cares for, but having to stand by and watch how she acts sometimes rubs me the wrong way. Here's where the issue comes in. Yesterday, John and I were at the supermarket to do our food shop. Normally, we would buy our food for the week and maybe a couple of simple or frozen meals to save for Sunday. However, Kat has been coming over for dinners a few times a week and she has a very limited diet. She refuses to eat anything other than fast food or simple or frozen meals. She likely has her reasons for eating specific food, and in case it's due to an ED or something similar, I don't want to make things hard for her or pry into something that isn't my business. The time where it became an issue for me is how John has now wanted to buy backup meals for her in case she doesn't like what we're cooking. This would make sense, as before she has been eating stuff that was part of our weekly meal plan. The problem is, John wants me to financially contribute to these extra meals for her. When I spoke to John about this and said how I'm not happy paying half for her meals, our weekly shop cost is just split in half as we both eat everything, he got quite agitated. He called me selfish for not wanting to help her just to save money. I know frozen meals aren't the most expensive thing in the world, but John is in a much better financial situation than I am. And while I can pay my share of the bills and occasionally have outings with my friends, I don't want to be dishing out extra money for meals for a girl I have no real connection to, as these small amounts do add up. In my eyes, if Kat doesn't like what we're cooking, she could come over on a different day, or John could buy backup meals for her out of his own pocket. I feel like a jerk, but I don't think I should be paying for an extra person's food. If my boyfriend had a similar situation to Kat, I'd see it as my responsibility to provide for him and his diet, and I'd never expect John to pay. Am I the jerk for thinking this way? Do any of you have any advice? Not the jerk, but it's time to take a financial and social step back from John as he navigates his new relationship. He can't expect you to help finance the fact that his girlfriend eats like a kid and needs backup meals. That's their expense alone, and perhaps separate shopping is now in order as you two no longer have the same joint priorities. On the flip side, I also wouldn't continue to rely on John as a ride if you constantly want to stay out with friends later. It honestly sounds like your life paths are just splitting at this time, and it's best to acknowledge that and adjust expectations of each other accordingly before bitterness sets in. I'd also get ahead of any rent or living concerns sooner rather than later. If she's sticking around, it may be time to start planning an exit strategy. Nanny bought books for my daughter and expects me to pay her for them. My daughter Ruby is 12. Recently, she's gotten into the original Star Trek show, as well as The Next Generation. Ruby is also a big reader and has started to collect a few of the old Star Trek books that she finds in used bookstores and thrift stores. These books usually cost anywhere from 50 cents to a couple of dollars. My nanny, Tessa, who's 22, hangs out with Ruby most days after she gets out of school. Tessa has been our nanny for over a year now, and she and Ruby get along great. Tessa is big into thrifting and will often keep an eye out for the books that Ruby wants. This is not typically a problem, and Ruby always pays Tessa back for the books using her allowance. The problem occurred when Tessa went on a family vacation out west. Apparently, she went thrifting during this trip, found some books for Ruby. She texted Ruby asking her if she wanted the books, and Ruby said yes. Well, Tessa returned yesterday with a stack of about 35 books and told Ruby they cost $50. Ruby doesn't have this much money and told Tessa. Tessa then asked me if I would cover the cost. I said no, as Tessa had never even asked me about buying Ruby the books, nor was I aware of the conversation between the two of them. Tessa got upset, and I asked Ruby to show me the text, which made no mention of price or even the amount of books she was buying. Tessa only said that she found some books for Ruby. Ruby is on the spectrum and does not read between the lines. You have to be very literal with her. Previously, Tessa has never bought Ruby more than 1 or 2 books at a time, so I told her that she should have clarified with Ruby regarding the amount, or double-checked with me before purchasing, and that I would not be paying the $50. Tessa said she could not return the books because they came from the thrift store. I stood firm in my decision and reiterated that she should have asked me first. Tessa left, and Ruby is very upset. I know Tessa is a student and does not have a ton of money, so am I the jerk for not paying Tessa for the books? Edit, because some people are asking. I am a single parent to Ruby, and while $50 will not make or break the bank, it is definitely an unexpected expense. I provide Tessa with an extra amount of money each month to spend on whatever she wants to do with Ruby, movies, the mall, etc. If she wanted to spend this fund on books for Ruby, that would have been totally fine, but she had already used it up. Edit 2. I definitely didn't expect this post to blow up overnight, so I'm going to add a bit more context. For those of you who are asking how can I afford a nanny for Ruby and still have $50 be a large unexpected expense, I do not pay for Tessa's services. Because Ruby is on the spectrum, she is entitled to benefits from our state, including care. The agency I work with pays Tessa. I'm not involved in that process at all. Update. I appreciate everyone's input. I've seen a few comments hinting to me about the fact that I don't support my daughter's reading habit. Please know this is definitely not the case. We're both big readers and frequent patrons of our local library. I'm always supportive of Ruby getting new books. I talked to Tessa and told her that I appreciate her for thinking of Ruby, apologized for the misunderstanding, and I have paid her for the books. We had a chat about expectations in the future, and I don't think this will happen again. I've also talked to Ruby, and we agreed that I would hold on to the books and she would pay me for them as she wishes. It's important to me that Ruby learns how to handle her finances appropriately, and we've decided that she will get 2 new books every week. She reads very quickly. After reading through your perspectives on the matter, I agree that it is better in the long run to lose the money and salvage the relationship between the 3 of us, and had not considered all of the implications of doing otherwise. Lesson learned. Sometimes it's better to salvage an important relationship than to be right. Pay for the books. Let Tessa know that you can't do so in the future, though, without talking about it. Tell her how much you appreciate her thoughtfulness now and always. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.